Okay, Joe Clem 15 coming at you with the fresh cut. But more importantly, I was gonna stay off this topic because I didn't think it really mattered. But there's a considerable amount of people who are complaining about the referee in the Amir Khan Lamont Peterson fight. Let me tell you what was really going on in the fight. Amir Khan was not adapting well to the pressure that was being put on him. As a result, Amir Khan reverted to different ways to get away from the pressure. He didn't try to sit there and fight on the inside, which he doesn't have to. Not everybody, Ali didn't do that. A lot of boxers aren't. You don't have to fight on the inside. You can either tie up properly and wait for the referee to separate you. You can counterpunch off the ropes and move left or right, kind of like what Mayweather does. Um, you can duck and slip under and escape, which he actually did a few times, but it's hard to keep that up if somebody knows you're doing the same thing every single time. Uh, okay, look, let me go through the complaints. First complaint, they're saying a lot of people are saying that Lamont was coming in with his head. Lamont wasn't coming in with his head; he was coming forward, and he was getting his nose in there. But usually, when it comes to using your head or coming in with your head too low, it consists of somebody either driving their head into the pit of the stomach or above under the chin. Somewhat with what Hopkins does. Hopkins will come up and raise your chin up with his head. It's very slick, and the ref will tell you to keep your head up. Okay, um, that was not what was going on in this fight. Amir Khan, once Lamont got to a certain uh, level in terms of closeness, Amir oftentimes, not every single time, but quite too often, would either put both his hands around Peterson's Travs, or he would push down on the top of his neck, making Lamont go down, and then he'll, acting all guilty. I mean, we see what you're doing, man, and I'm an Amir Khan fan, so don't. This has nothing to do with any kind of hitterism, but he was panicking. He didn't know what to do with that kind of pressure being put on him. And even with him running around the ring, Lamont was chasing him, running after him, uh, and cutting it off when he needed to. What I would like to have seen the ref do more, do any better than he did. The only thing he needed to do better was give him a hard warning. Okay, uh, and by hard warning, I mean this. He should have stopped the action and said, Amir, if you push off again, I'm gonna take off 1 point. He should have given him a hard warning like that. Now, the quantity of times that this guy warned, he warned Amir Khan a lot, but it was light warnings. Don't push off, don't push off, don't push off, don't push off. Um, and then finally he was like, "Fuck it, I'm taking a point away." You can make an argument that he should have given a hard warning before he took a point off. And you know what? He could have given the hard warning maybe after the second time he pushed off. He dozens of times told Amir Khan not to push off, but it would have been better if after the second, maybe he could have been really strict about it. But like after the second time he pushed, could have grabbed Amir Khan and said, "Hey, do that again. I'm taking a point." If anything, I do admit it was he could have done that a little bit better. In regards to people saying, "Oh well, people always push off in boxing. Why is he singling out Amir Khan?" People do push off, but they don't do it as excessive as Amir was doing it. Amir Khan at least pushed off like 20 times. Uh, and above all that, it was so blatant. Amir Khan needs to learn how to be slick about that. Usually, when I push off, or just other people push off, you turn your body sideways and you use your shoulder. You get your shoulder into their body and you push off. It's very less subtle. It's less blatant looking than taking your glove and actually pushing like this or pushing with your forearms like Amir Khan did. So the pushing was so blatant that it wasn't taken as lightly. Um, there was not that much leniency given towards Amir Khan because people who do push off don't do it and make it so obvious they're pushing off. And above all, the pushing off was so significant in this fight. Usually, when people push off, it doesn't really matter with this fight. In this fight, Lamont he could not win this fight at distance. In my opinion, he had to have been his work, his productivity was done on the inside. So being denied access of that illegally over and over and over again, that needed to be, um, I think that needed to be penalized to make the fight fair. Because if Amir Khan does not get warned, he's able to do that. If he's able to push off, say if you want it to be like, oh, he did, pushing off doesn't really count and let him get away with it. If Amir Khan's able to push off all night, that's an unfair fight, at least for this kind of a fight, because Lamont needs to do inside work, um, and it's the only way Lamont could win. So with that being said, you know, and it goes both ways. There's certain fights where Ali sometimes he got away with it. Then towards the 70s, people started to say stuff. He would stick his arm out, stick his fist out, put it on your forehead, kind of like what a bully does, or to a kid, or an older brother does to one of their siblings when they're trying to throw punches. You stick your palm out, put it on their face so they can't reach you. Giving them the stick, but not jabbing. If you're constantly doing that the whole fight, keeping somebody at bay illegally like that, it's kind of unfair, because that person can only win. They can't win from the outside. Well, same goes for somebody who needs to do work on the inside. You can't just keep on pushing them pushing them out of range. So with that being said, I feel like the ref could have done it a little bit differently, and that he should have installed a hard warning. Um, and that's pretty much it. And perhaps, I don't know, maybe he could have taken off one and then let the last round just go. I think you could also make an argument for that. Like, once you've penalized him for that one point, you can just continue giving him warnings not to do it, not to do it. But Amir wasn't listening; he was going to keep on doing it anyway. So I don't know, but that's just my thoughts. In no way, in shape, or form was the ref pulling for a hometown favorite, in my opinion. Because looking at the fight, if he was really pulling for Lamont, he wouldn't have counted that knockdown, because that knockdown, it was very questionable. Put it that way. It was debatable. It was questionable. I think it could have gone either way. But if a referee was pulling for Lamont, he'd be perfectly justified in not calling that a knockdown, and people wouldn't argue with that. People would have been like, "Oh, it was a slip," because it was more of a balance issue than anything. It wasn't because of the punch. So if he was really trying to go for the hometown fighter, a hometown fighter doesn't get that kind of a knockdown called called on him. Sorry, I'm kind of sick. Everybody's getting kind of sick this time of year. But those are my thoughts. 15, signing out.